Today I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of recycling for your wrapping paper. I've taken that packaging paper that Stampin' Up! Puts in our boxes, and I've ironed it on the ironing board and kind of tore it up. And I'm going to use that to wrap my presents this year. I think it's a good way of reusing that. And they put in so much packaging paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure. So you want to make sure that you're the right size because you're going to be doing stamping and stuff. So always measure your packaging paper first. So I just wrap it around the present it's supposed to wrap, and then I'll put a little mark, nothing scientific, and then I'll just take a pair of scissors and cut that down to that mark. And this kind of helps you not waste too much of it, and you can get all your presents wrapped with this packaging paper. So I'm just cutting that, and then a lot of you who are structured and organized probably don't like those torn edges. So if you don't like them, I don't mind them actually, but if you don't like them, you can do a couple of things. You can fold, like I'm going to do right here, and then use the fold line to cut, right? Or you can just do a fold. So when you cut against the fold, you might have to be a little exact. Now I could have pulled out my paper cutter because this is actually thin enough for me to cut using the paper cutter, but I wanted to make this so, like easy to do that I didn't want to pull out any tools other than scissors and tape. The other side I just folded, and then the fold is good enough to hide the torn edge. But again, I'm just going to cut off this little piece of white here, which is the white gel pen that I used to mark the spot. The only reason I use white gel pens is because I didn't have a pencil handy, so that happens. You grab what you have handy in your little toolkit. So now I've got two clean edges. I'm going to double check that when I did that cleanup, it turns out nice when you fold it, and I'm going to double check that it still fits the box. It's rare that you would get crazy cutting, but just in case, I double check and make sure it still fits on the box. Now, we're going to do some stamping on this first one, and you can do a lot here. I'm going to use some snowflakes, and I think these are Stampendous. I just wanted some really large snowflakes, and I didn't have any Stampin' Up! Snowflakes, so I just used what I had in my box. I like the clear mount blocks, and the block is Stampin' Up! Because you can put multiple stamps on it. So I could actually put a smaller stamp on that block as well and stamp 3 at one time. This can also help you get a random design, so sometimes when you're looking for randomness, some people have a hard time with that. So just collaging a bunch of stamps on a single large clear block works. Here I'm doing all my corners just by turning the stamp around. So the little stamp is pointing inside versus the larger stamp is pointing inside. And I go all the way around like that. And then I have this huge stamp, same set, Stampendous. And I'm just going to take that huge stamp and put it somewhere so it's going to show on the front of the package. So I am doing a little bit of thinking about where stuff will be once the package is designed. So these edges are probably going to be hidden. But I want to get at least a full one of those snowflakes towards the center. Since I'm going to tie with a bow on some of these, I don't need it directly in the center because the bow will probably be in the center. So I probably spend too much time doing this. It's kind of a bad angle for me too because the camera's in the way. So don't forget you can turn your paper around if you need a better angle. But with large stamps, you do need to give a little extra pressure to get them to show up. And I tilted that by accident. You don't want to tilt or rock when you stamp. So in this case, I'm going to take that other stamp that was collaged, the other block, and kind of break it apart. Now I'm going to take just the larger of the two and stamp it alone in some of those blank areas. And I'm going to do the same thing with the smaller of the two, kind of get it by itself on the block and stamp that in the other blank areas. And so I think I even took my time and kind of went around some of my papers and made sure that it was totally random. You could do less, so I even took a little tiny snowflake block and from a Stampin' Up set and added it so that it would look like it was snowing around the snowflakes. Now I'm going to take some white embossing powder, and a lot of you are immediately saying, oh, you didn't put anything under your surface to catch the powder. But don't worry, this is flimsy kind of wrapping paper, so I'll be able to fold it. You'll see in a few minutes in order to put the powder back into the container. So it's not as hard to work with as cardstock when it comes to getting the embossing powder back into the bin. So I kind of feel like I'm cooking here, but I love doing that. Spread out the stuff. And you can do a big long sheet if you want, but I like to do them no bigger than 16 inches. So if they go bigger than my black mat, I probably won't do any more embossing, just kind of emboss partial. Then I just you saw how I just folded that and poured that back in there. Sometimes I'll use a little makeup brush to get any, excess spots. And then I'm going to heat set it. Don't use a hairdryer for this, you need a gun. And there it is, all heat set, magic of YouTube. And it's all shiny and sparkly, and I just love the way the white embossing powder looks on this like paper, this craft looking paper. It looks really cool. And you wouldn't believe that this was garbage originally. It's so green of me. So now that's done, I'm going to not wrap them right here for this video, but I will show you that I'm going to use last year's ribbon over again. So if people give you gifts, take the ribbon and keep it. Keep the ribbon for next year. And I'll just take a curling iron, believe it or not, make sure it's clean, and I'll iron on a very low setting the ribbon. And this enables me to have brand new, crisp, clean ribbon 2 years in a row. Actually, that was somebody else's ribbon that they gave me a gift and I reused it. So again, very green of me. And now that's one package. I'm going to show you another one. We're going to do a little bit of the wheel for wrapping paper, which it's pretty popular for that. But I'm just going to give you a little demonstration of how that would work. I'm going to take a brand new sheet of the wrapping paper all ironed, and I'm going to get my stamping wheel all ready to stamp. This is not hard to do. You buy the wheel and the handle. You buy the handle once. You never have to buy it again. And then you buy these re-inkers, and you buy an empty, I guess, cartridge for the ink. And be careful when you're putting this ink in. Don't overdo it. Don't pour it in there. Kind of rub it against the wheel and keep turning until it's all the color of the ink. But don't put too much because you'll get a drip problem. And don't pour it into the container. Make sure you're rubbing against the sponge of that inker, and it'll turn out really nice. What I like about this for wrapping paper is I don't have to rub this against my ink pad, which is another option, but it just takes a lot longer. This way it self-inks. So I'm just going to pick it up, and there's a hole that you can press in there, put it in there, and it pops in place. You'll feel it, and then you just pop your wheel down. And then you take out the top that's covering it, and you push that knob up, and now it's going to automatically ink from right there. So I'm going to put down a fresh sheet because I think that sheet that I have put down was really meant to be scrap paper. When you're inking it and getting it ready, you might want to use scrap paper just so that in case you drip on it. So now I'm just going to start at the left end. If you're right-handed, start at the right. If you're left-handed, start at the right end. Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure. Sorry, I forgot that I was going to check and make sure it was running right. So you do want to start it. And then I'm on the left side and I'm rolling. And the reason why I'm working from left to right is because I can see better. So as I'm rolling, my eye is on the left side of the roller because I'm right-handed. But you'd want to do this the opposite way. If you were left-handed, you'd want to work from right to left. That way your eye can see, where you left off. I'm not going to stress over whether or not this is perfectly spaced or not. You just do the best you can. It'll look great on the box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some pictures of my packages, and may you have a Merry Christmas.